Here we go. So, today is a day of action throughout the country. The American Postal Workers Union called this day of action Thursday, March 20th. We're around 200 plus post offices all around this country. In this area, we're here at the Bustleton station in Philadelphia, Darby's Post Office in Darby, PA, Bluebell, Pennsylvania, Media, Wilmington. We're all throughout the area, Pennsylvania, 3 states. Today, members of the American Postal Workers Union, union leaders from other organizations, and many community allies are out here today and throughout the country to speak out against a proposed hostile takeover and possible sale of the United States Postal Service that would raise rates and shutter local post offices. Our national union, along with many other APWU leaders, selected this date to bring our message to the people in our country who believe in a public post office and who use the public post office as part of their everyday lives. This fight does not stop today and must continue if we want to maintain a viable public post office. And we can't do it without many of the speakers we're about to hear. But most importantly, we cannot do it without you, the customers, who are out here also today. During the course of the day, we will bring you facts as we want those pushing this issue to keep their hands off our public post office. And when I say our, I mean all of ours. Our first speaker, who will be Congressman Brenda Boyle, would allow me to say a few words. First and foremost, the Congressman was responsible for having this post office renamed after a fallen hero, Philadelphia Police Officer Sergeant Christopher David Fitzgerald. Congressman Boyle, we thank you for that. Congressman Boyle was a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives from January 2009 through January 2015. He was then elected to the United States Congress House of Representatives in January of 2015 and has held that position ever since. He's a ranking member of the United States House Committee on the Budget. Congressman Boyle openly criticized the outsourcing of jobs at Nabisco to Mexico back in 2019. I still miss the smelling of those cookies. He has been a voice for labor and working people for all the years he's been in office. He's currently a co-sponsor to a House resolution that has 163 co-sponsors, and he can touch on that. It's to ensure that the United States Postal Service remains an independent establishment of the federal government and not subject to privatization. That is what we're here to make sure doesn't happen, does not get privatized. So please, join me for a warm welcome to introduce and bring up Congressman Brenda Boyle.
Thank you. Well, Vince, let me first just address a couple things up front. First, I hope you will join with me and wish a very happy 65th birthday to my staffer, Sean Tobin. Happy 56th, Sean. He says he's not 65. I don't know. Maybe 64. All right. Happy birthday, Sean. And congratulations qualifying for Medicare, Sean. Until Trump and Musk try to take it away, but we're not going to let them take it away.
No.
Second point is Vince mentioned that my legislation passed late last year to rename this post office, a very significant post office in our community, indeed the one that my family and I use every day, after a fallen hero, Officer Christopher D. Fitzgerald. The official renaming, we have not announced the date of the ceremony yet, but stay tuned. We hope within the next few days to make that date public. We are aiming for a date this spring. So you can imagine, especially at this time, working with the Postal Service, as well as the family and a number of other considerations to find a suitable date is, a little bit of logistical challenge. But we will get there, and so we're hopeful this spring we will have the plaque and the official renaming to be special for the Fitzgerald family, but indeed, I think for all of us in our community to further honor that hero. Now, as to why we're here today, Vince, I can't name or the number of how many different events that we have stood at together in order to save the Postal Service. I remember walking on a picket line with you outside the postal facility on Byberry Road about a decade ago when the Postal Service was attempting backdoor privatization, outsourcing a number of key Postal Service functions to Staples and to other private sector entities. We were able to defeat that. I remember other times, including during the pandemic, when we stood together, right here in fact, in order to stop what Louis DeJoy was trying to do to the Postal Service. We were able to succeed then as well. What the men and women behind the Postal Service have done throughout the generations is remarkable. When you consider all that we've gone through as a country and survived, and yet, day in and day out, our mail service has been there. Through wars, including a civil war and 2 world wars, through the recent pandemic, as well as other pandemics, through everything that has happened, the men and women who deliver our mail have delivered literally for us. And now we face yet another significant threat. One, I think, unlike any other threat that we have faced. And that is the threat from an unelected billionaire, Elon Musk, and his desire to privatize and end the United States Postal Service as we know it. Hell no, we're not going to let Elon Musk rip away our Postal Service from us. We are not going to let him Let's just think. The United States Postal Service actually is older than the United States of America. And we as Philadelphians especially should be proud of it. It was created right here in our city by Benjamin Franklin. But Elon Musk thinks he knows more than Benjamin Franklin, thinks he knows more than all of us, that he is so smart. Why? Because he's the richest person in the world. Because he's the richest person in the history of the world. Never have we seen an unelected billionaire have such power in the United States. He is attempting, by his own words, to go after Social Security. He is attempting to dismantle, agency by agency, the United States federal government. No one voted for that 6 months ago. I was campaigning a lot, actually throughout the country, a lot of trying to help a lot of my House Democratic colleagues throughout our country. And I wish we had picked a couple more seats up and we wouldn't be facing some of what we're facing right now. Nonetheless, the folks who won the last election by a narrow margin, they did so because they were able to convince enough people that they were going to bring down costs for the American people. Let me ask you, have you seen any costs go down?
No.
Have you seen the cost of eggs go up?
Yes.
Have you seen the cost of gas go up?
Yes.
Have you seen inflation go up?
Yes.
And yet here we are. Not 1 ounce of progress has been made when it comes to reducing costs for the American people. Instead, we're talking about what? Getting rid of the Postal Service. Literally the single most popular thing government does is the United States Postal Service. Poll after poll shows it. This does not make any sense whatsoever. The men and women who work for our government, including the United States Postal Service, are deserving of respect. Monday night, a few of you behind me were with me at a town hall that I held along with friends from the AFL-CIO. We had about 70, 80 or so ordinary Philadelphians. Blue collar, white collar, work for all sorts of different agencies, some private sector, some public sector. I'll never forget the very last speaker, after a long line of people up to the microphone, she stood up and told her story. She mentioned that she joined TSA right after 9/11. She's worked there for 23 years, always served with distinction. At work the other day, just a few weeks ago, she got an email, she remembers exactly the time, 8:58 a.m. Got a cold, short email letting her know that was going to be her final day. And then about 20 minutes later, someone gave a knock on the door, letting her know it was time to gather up. That is another way to treat public servants. These are human beings behind it. Our fellow human beings, our fellow Philadelphia, our fellow Pennsylvania. Day in and day out, they do the work that is required of them. It's not glamorous. They'll be the first to tell you they're not getting rich off it. But they're what makes the Postal Service work. They're what makes our government work. The way Elon Musk and Donald Trump and this administration are treating them is wrong, it's inhumane, it's a disgrace, and we're not going to stand for it. Period. So ladies and gentlemen, I want all of you to know directly from me, just as I've stood with you shoulder to shoulder during the other threats that we have faced, the threats of privatization and pandemic, and all sorts of things. We will weather this threat just as the men and women of the Postal Service have weathered other threats for more than a quarter millennium. I have absolutely no doubt we will win in this, and we will save the United States Postal Service. Thank you.
The People's Post Office.
U.S. mail?
Not for sale.
U.S. mail?
Not for sale.
U.S. mail?
Not for sale.
Thank you, Congressman Boyle. Let's give Congressman Boyle another hand, please.
Woo!
Our next speaker is going to be Danny Bowder. Danny unfortunately had an emergency he had to deal with. He's the president of the Central Labor Council, the meeting that Brendan Boyle went to on Monday. He chairs that council meeting. Our next speaker, supporter, his name is Sean Doherty. He's District 172, Northeast Philadelphia. I reached out to Sean. He did not hesitate. He became the state rep this past January. Let's give a warm welcome to Sean Doherty.
Thank you, Vince, for having me here today. And thank you, Congressman Boyle, specifically at this location with you for renaming this after Officer Fitzgerald. I grew up with Chris. He lived right next door to my best friend, so it really means a lot to me. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank you all for being out here today as well. And supporting it. The Post Office Act of 1792 formalized the Post Office as a permanent fixture in our federal government. Permanent. And now they're trying to take that away. You talk to people, neighbors, like Madonna Duffy, who's worked for the Postal Service for 38 years. She said something today that really stuck with me. What other job, what other institution directly services every single person every single day, regardless of race, ethnicity, how much money you have in your bank account? For the people, by the people. The Post Office is the people.
Woo!
I am humbled and honored to be standing here today, not only as the state representative of the 172nd District of Northeast Philadelphia, but as a union member and a union family that has been and supported unions my whole life. Unions in my blood. And to read that postal privatization wouldn't just be the end of reliable mail delivery, it would destroy over 600,000 good union-paying jobs. I'm glad that we're standing here today in Northeast Philly. With you all. Because in East Philly, when we say N-O, we're damn sure going to be heard. And they're going to hear us. There's a saying, when you go, when we fight, we win. And today, we're fighting, and we're going to win.
Yeah.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to come talk.
Thank you, Sean. Let's give Sean another applause, please. Thank you very much. So we reached out to a number of different folks, and I want to thank everyone who took the time to come out here. So it didn't matter. We're all postal customers one way or the other. We either mail things, we receive things. We've been doing it our whole lives. Our next speaker comes out of Councilman Isaiah Thomas's office. I've reached out to them. Carmela Green is here. She's the labor liaison office. Did not hesitate. She said, I'll be there. I'd like to bring Carmela on, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
To Vince and all the leadership of APWU, Congressman Boyle, and all the elected officials and dignitaries who may be here, and of course all of you, our beloved postal workers. Good morning. My name is Carmela Green, and I am the labor liaison for Philadelphia Council Member and Majority Whip Isaiah Thomas. As many of you know, Thursdays are stated meeting sessions for Philadelphia City Council, and that is why the council member is not here today. However, this issue is important to the council member, and he wanted me to be here for you. So on behalf of Council Member Thomas, I'd like to first thank the thousands, tens of thousands of Postal Service workers, especially our Philadelphia Postal Service workers, for your tireless dedication and service. You are in that category of essential workers before essential workers was even a thing. And so we are deeply grateful for the work you do day in and day out. You're welcome. Over the last several months, we have witnessed the dismantling of several of our government agencies and departments at an alarming and unnecessary rate, to the devastation of many, putting thousands of people out of work and affecting so many families nationwide. It's an attack on democracy, and it's an attack on unions. Therefore, we must take the threat of administration privatizing our postal service seriously. Enough is enough. So Philadelphia postal workers, on behalf of Councilmember Thomas, I'm here to let you know the council member stands with you. We stand with you and the hundreds of thousands of postal workers against the privatization of our postal service. This is a time for all levels of government to join together and come up with viable solutions to help grow and sustain this valuable and historic public institution and the thousands of dedicated workers that have served us through rain, sleet, snow, shine, COVID, and much, much more. We owe them at least that. Many of them have become friends and like family to the people they serve. So with that, I want to once more say to our postal workers on behalf of Councilmember Thomas, we thank you for your tremendous commitment, dedication, and unwavering loyalty and sacrifices you make daily to serve the people of Philadelphia. We stand with you in support and solidarity to defend our public postal service. U.S. Mail is
Not for sale.
hands off our public postal service. Thank you.
Woo!
Let's hear it for Carmela Green. Great to hear from. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is a national business agent. I'm a current national business agent with the American Postal Workers Union. Newest colleague, her name is Kim Miller. Kim Miller hit the ground running. She's a former local president. She's a former state president of the American Postal Workers Union. She knows how to do the job, and I'm proud to be working side by side with her. I asked Kim if she wanted to say a few words, and there was no hesitation. Let's hear it for Kim Miller.
Thank you everybody, and thank you for everybody for coming out. Today, we're gathered by many of our postal workers around us, and we have joined forces here. We have the letter carriers, we're still here, we have the mail handlers, we have the clerks, and of course, we have the American Postal Workers Union. And we're here to let the public know that we're going to stand tough, but we need your help. We need your help to stand behind us, because we've been there for you through all of it. Like she said, rain, sleet, snow, COVID. We delivered, we came through, we showed up for work when you needed us, and we want you to stand behind us as we need you now in this fight. It's a tough fight. We're trying to attack a service that has been in the Constitution for over, well, this is 250 years that we celebrate, and we need to continue to have that post office, because you know what's going to get hit hardest? It's a rural America, and that's where they don't want you to have your medicine, and that's where you don't want your seeds, and that's where you don't want delivery every day. Don't pick and choose what area will deliver, and if they don't like you that week, you know what? We'll wait till next week to get your delivery, and that's just not right. It's not what this post office has been about for 250 years. Every piece of mail is important to us every day, every house. That's what we want, and we ask for you to stand behind us. The American Postal Workers Union, we're used to fighting. We're fighting hard. We want fair wages. We want a decent place, a clean place to work, and we want a safe place. And we're ready to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to fight, because the U.S. mail
It's not for sale.
The U.S. mail is
Not for sale.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Next year, the post office is at 3rd and Market Street.
For education purposes, and Kim mentioned a few unions, the United States Postal Service, the bargaining unit employees are represented by 4 different unions. In a perfect world, we have 1 union. Currently, we have 4. We have the National Postal Mail Handlers Union. Joe Zelenicki, president. French Steroids here. Thank Joe for being out here. We have the Rural Carriers Postal Union. We have the National Association of Letter Carriers, and we have the American Postal Workers Union. So we make up maybe about 600,000 postal employees, and we're here to fight for every one of them. Our next speaker comes from my home local, the Philadelphia BMC Local 7048. I was the local president there for 27 years. I became local president in '89. And the only reason I'm telling you that, because the guy who's about to talk wasn't born yet. So I'm proud to bring up my local president, James DeRitter, who's doing a great job. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, here we go. So, a couple of things that just address the myths that we ourselves, a lot of this other stuff. So there's a myth that the USPS loses billions of dollars each year in taxpayer money. That's a myth. The fact is that the Postal Service is self-funded and relies on revenue generated from the sales of stamped products and services to pay for its operations. The next myth is that the USPS is obsolete because letter mail volumes have steadily declined in the digital age. The fact is, the Postal Service is 250 years old and has always adapted to new technology and mail mix. While letter mail is down, package volumes are up. Additionally, the Postal Reform Act of 2022 allows that the Postal Service offer new services to local government, such as postal banking. Also, how many people here get their prescriptions in the mail? With the threat of privatization, that's a threat to getting your prescriptions on mail that you need in a timely manner. And then, unfortunately, life-threatening. So the USPS is, another myth is the USPS is not profitable and it should be run like a business. The fact is that the Postal Service is not a business, and it's enshrined in our Constitution, just like our other speakers have just said. We delivered over 169 million addresses in urban areas, rural areas, in 6 days a week, sometimes even 7 days a week. Another myth is that the mail was run by private companies, that the universal service obligation would still exist and the Postal Service would deliver to every address. That's a myth. The fact is delivery would be driven by profit margins, and private companies will only go to where they can make a profit. The next myth is moving the Postal Service under the Commerce Department, which we've heard those rumors of through possible executive orders over the last month or so, would mean that it would still be a public agency and not subject to privatization. The fact is that the Postal Service, moving the Postal Service under the Commerce Department, would step backwards, giving power back to the executive branch of the federal government, and removing independent governance that allows us to serve America free from political interference. The Postal Service is not a politically motivated organization, and it's not supposed to be. So with that said, thank you all for coming out. I appreciate everything everybody's doing here, and everybody here support workers for their plant. Thank
The next speaker, I asked him to say a few words. He's from the Trenton Metro area local, so he's across the river. Chuck Angelone's doing a great job for his local. He's got generational stories to tell you. Chuck, I'm gonna come up, please.
I'm a lefty, so. Sorry. I grew up in Fairless Hills, just a steel mill town in Pennsylvania. There's no steel mill anymore.
Speak in the microphone.
My father was a postal worker for 30 years. He worked at Trenton. He started when he was 25, retired at 55 after 30 years of service. It's not something a lot of people can do anymore. So let's get something straight. The billionaires and the corporate parasites aren't trying to fix the Postal Service. They're trying to break it up and sell it off piece by piece. You ever notice how every time that there's a government service that Americans actually like, for regular people, that billionaires want to step in and say, hey, what if we charged you more and gave you worse service? Look at Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, programs that keep millions of people out of absolute ruin. And what does Wall Street, or these Wall Street vultures want? They say, oh, you won't be needing that anymore. We'd rather hand it over to our hedge fund buddies so they can gamble it with it.
Boo.
I don't care if your grandmother can afford her meds, or she has to walk a mile to pick up her Social Security check or medications. They care about turning our retirement and other people's retirements into their next payday. And with the Postal Service, it's the same story. Cut the service, raise the prices, and make people pay more for worse mail delivery. Project 2025 is their blueprint. Extremists plan to dismantle every public service that benefits working people. And the Postal Service is no different. They want to rip it apart, jack up the prices, and pretend it's an upgrade. Leading the charge is Louis DeJoy. This guy couldn't stutter through a lie in front of Congress or the Senate to save his life. He's a logistics CEO whose solution to logistics for the Postal Service is to making logistics slower, slowing down the mail, reducing the amount of days that we deliver. And let's not forget Elon Musk.
Boo.
A billionaire who somehow manages to be the richest man alive and the biggest whiner on the planet.
Yes. Next to his buddy Trumpy.
He's constantly complaining on Twitter about everything, but you never hear him complain about how much government money he keeps that keeps his companies afloat. It's funny how that works.
Yep.
But here's the thing, knowing what's coming and doing something about it are two different things. I get that some folks are hesitant and they don't have the time to get to these rallies. This one was planned within 2 weeks. There'll be more. This fight is going to keep coming. And we can't lose, because if we lose, the American public loses too. So what do? We need to show up. We need to get loud, and we need to turn up the pressure. Because let me tell you something, your elected representatives work for you. Not for Musk, not for DeJoy. They work for you. Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. They don't get to ignore this. And when they try, we have to remind them that the Postal Service belongs to the people. So say it with me, U.S. mail, not for sale.
Woo.
As Sean Doherty said earlier, when we fight,
We win.
when we fight,
We win.
and our national president said it best, we can do nothing and we'll lose, but if we fight, we have a shot. And that's what we're out here to do, and we can't do it without the American people. This is the People's Post Office. Whose post office?
The People's Post Office.
Whose post office?
The People's Post Office.
Our next speaker is a supporter, community person. His name is Bob Stewart. I know him real well. Bob works in Philadelphia. We can give you some background. Me and Bob work together for community here at the Bustleton Bengals. I asked Bob if he can come out. No hesitation. Bob, come forward.
Thanks for having me, Vince. I think everybody here's covered all the legal aspects and what the post office is in the history. Something I want to talk about is the community impact that these jobs make. We are constantly at the Bustleton Bengals trying to recruit coaches for the kids, and just recently we had one of our top coaches. He lost his job at a private parcel delivery company last year, and he got a job at the post office just about a month or two ago. And now he's able to, he's got money. He doesn't have to hustle everywhere. He knows his schedule, and he's going to be able to coach 12 to 14 of our granddaughters, daughters, sisters, cousins in softball this year. And it's because of jobs like this. Jobs like this, these people make wages that they can go to restaurants in this neighborhood. They support small businesses. And eliminating that, making it low-paying privatized jobs, they have no job security, and they're not having enough money to support community impact. For someone like me, I walk around, I'm trying to find people to volunteer. These are the volunteers who find people have good jobs like this. Take the time for our children, and that's how we're confident about it. Everyone else has covered all the other stuff. So I just wanted to make that point about how important these jobs are to our local community.
Woo.
Our next speaker is actually Bob Stewart's boss, John Sabatini, with Register Your Wills. Took time out of his busy schedule to come and say a few words. John, let's give him a hand.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I show my support for the postal workers. I've marched with you in the Labor Day parades many times, and I happen to be also a Democratic coordinator who is responsible for garnering a number of votes to keep Democrats in office who will vote for the public service that you so graciously perform. And I want to just lend my support and let you know we'll be out there working, put people in office who's going to support the working people. Thank you very much. Don't want to interrupt the rest of the many speakers that you have. Thank you.
Well, we're getting close to wrapping up the press conference. Just a couple comments. As we speak, Joe Doherty, a good friend of Labor, has a Labor show that's airing as we speak. James DeRitter was on it earlier. He's went to different spots remotely and had them talk about the day of action. That'll be replayed on the radio this Saturday. I want to just thank Joe Doherty publicly, him and Joe Krause, for the work that they do to get Labor's voice out there. I want to recognize Brian O'Neill's the councilman in this district, and Madonna Duffy works for Brian. She came out, you heard her name mentioned earlier, postal worker for 38 years, retired now. Thanks to the fact that we have a union, thanks to the fact that we have a public post office, she's been able to do her job all these years. So thank you, Madonna, for coming out. I don't know if there's any customer here that would like to say a few words, but our national president made it clear, engage with the customers, and we did that. We did that last week. We came out, we handed out flyers, well received. We came out again earlier this week, came out early this morning. This is for you, the customers, the people that come here day in and day out. And as you can see, this is a very busy post office. The Bustleton Post Office has been here for many, many years. They moved up north, and they were down there about 20 years ago. So this is the People's Post Office. This is your post office. I want to thank the media that came out today, took the time. We send out press releases. Thank you very much. We need to get the word out. We want to save the post office. U.S. mail.
Not for sale.
U.S. mail.
Not for sale.
U.S. mail.
Not for sale.
Whose post office?
The People's Post Office.
Whose post office?
The People's Post Office.
Whose post office?
The People's Post Office.
I want to thank you, everyone who took the time to speak and come out. Appreciate it very much. Let's hear it for everybody.
Woo!